Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to share my first craft fair experience and how I prepared for it in 1 month. If you're thinking of signing up for your first craft fair or you're just curious on how I managed to do it all, keep watching. The video will be broken down into 3 parts. The first part will be the reasoning and thought process behind my decision. Second part will be the planning and preparation that went into the craft fair. And the last part will be just a couple lessons that I learned after the whole experience. Okay, let's dive right in. So participating in a craft fair was actually one of my 2024 business goals, and all year I kind of put it off with no real excuse other than I wasn't motivated to do it. But with the holidays, around the corner, I figured maybe Christmas time was a good time to finally check that off my bucket list. What really prompted me to sign up for the craft fair was I actually visited one in November, and seeing the different vendors and what they had to offer really kind of made me think, okay, I can do this. So once I had that initial thought of, okay, I think I can do this, my mind of course went in all different directions. I was scared it would be a complete flop, that I wouldn't make any money, and that I would actually lose money because you have to purchase your spot at the craft fair. But I was trying to have a growth mindset and think of it in the lens of it's a learning experience, whether I'm able to successfully sell anything or not, that it would be fun, first of all, and just something I can really learn from. So once I shifted my mindset away from, okay, I have to make sales, I have to make a profit, to seeing it as a growth and learning opportunity, then I had to think about, okay, what is this actually going to look like? So rather than focusing on the result, I needed to then think about what are the steps that I need to take to make this happen. If you're anything like me, I need a plan before I jump in and dive into anything new. So I thought a lot about it. I talked it out loud with my mom. I wrote things down in terms of, what materials I would need, what products I was thinking of selling, and also kind of looking at the finance aspect of it. After spending about a week going from the initial idea of, okay, I think I can do this, to, oh my gosh, what if I don't make any money, to, it's okay if I don't make any money, to, what is this actually going to look like? I slept on it, and about a week later, I submitted my deposit for my craft fair space. And this was on November 6, 2024. And the craft fair was going to be on December 7, 2024. So once I pulled the trigger and purchased my booth spot for the craft fair, I needed to get to work. My plan was to create at least 1 or 2 products a week, keeping in mind I had about 4 weeks to get it all done. So if you're thinking of signing up for a craft fair, that would be my first tip. It would be to figure out what you're making and create a schedule of when you're making those items. You also don't want to make too many things and clutter your table space. Sometimes simple is best. You don't want to overwhelm your customers with just like a bunch of things all over the place. So really pick and choose what you want to display and feature at your booth. Another thing I did within those first couple weeks of planning and preparation, I visited other craft fairs that were being hosted. But when I visited them, I kind of put on my business glasses rather than just, coming in as a consumer. When I walked around the craft fair, rather than oohing and awing at all the things people had made, I looked at their tables, I looked at their signage, I looked at their displays, their pricing, I looked at the market in terms of, okay, are there other people selling what I'm thinking of selling? I looked at just the general space of a venue and gauged, okay, if you're in the front, you get a lot of foot traffic, or okay, if you're kind of in the back corner, you need something to help you stand out when you're kind of off to the side. So that would be my second tip to those of you considering signing up for your first craft fair. Before signing up for one, maybe consider taking a look at other craft fairs in your area and just kind of seeing it from that business perspective and learning from what other vendors are currently doing. So once I had made my various products, which I lasered on the weekends because I have a full-time job, but once that was done and they were pretty much packaged and ready to go, I spent time focusing on my setup. I would practice the setup. I purchased stands and little display items to help kind of elevate my products. That way they weren't going to lay flat on the table. When people are walking by, it's much easier for them to see a display that's propped up versus having to look down at your products. So I spent time doing that. I bought these display items conservatively because I wasn't sure if I would participate in future craft fairs. So I went to Daiso, got some items for really cheap. I also purchased something from Amazon as well. So that would be my third tip for those of you considering joining a craft fair. Really think about your setup because it actually is quite important. You need your items to be visible, to be attractive looking. You want it to be simple so it's not overwhelming for your customers. And you also want clear labels for pricing. The last thing that I really considered that's kind of unique in preparation for a craft fair is figuring out payment options. With an online business, it's pretty simple with either Etsy or Shopify, Squarespace, or your own personal website. But at a craft fair, it's not really realistic to have people purchase your item through your website when you're right there. So I looked into Square, pretty much because a lot of businesses use it, so I just went with that. But they do have a free card reader on their app, and they also sent a free strip reader as well that you could attach to your phone. So I got all of that and set it up ahead of time and practiced using the app and the card reader as well, just to make sure everything would run smoothly on that day. I can't really speak on behalf of other craft fairs in other areas, but in my area, people do end up paying with cash. So I also had to prepare change in case people were going to pay in cash that day. So to summarize, what I did to prepare for this craft fair in 1 month is I scheduled out the creation of my products, I visited other craft fairs, I practiced my setup, and I made sure I had different payment options ahead of time. And I would suggest these things to any first timers out there as well. So after the craft fair day, there were 2 main takeaways that I took from the experience. Apart from like learning that you can totally do something like this if you set your mind to it and having a plan and all those things that I did to prepare. But based off of just that day, I did take away 2 things. One is that when and where matters when you're participating in a craft fair. This particular craft fair that I attended had 2 different dates that they were running. The first one was in November, and that's when I actually visited them originally. It was early November. I remember it being not too crowded. There were a lot of vendors, but that same weekend there were other large craft fairs going around nearby. So I think that might have impacted the foot traffic at this particular craft fair. In December, the date that I had signed up for, it was kind of the only main one in that area that day. It was closer to Christmas. After Thanksgiving, I think people are thinking more about gift giving. So it was quite busy. And then another aspect, aside from the actual craft fair that you sign up for, where you're located or what booth you have within that fair also matters. I was kind of towards the end of a hallway, so I didn't get as much foot traffic as a booth that's kind of along the main drag, but I kept that in mind and made sure my business sign would really stand out. Another aspect that influenced the where / when of it all was in the morning where my booth was, it was quite shaded and cool versus another area was really sunny. So because I was in the shaded area, I got a lot of people during the early morning hours of the craft fair, but around late morning, midday, it got really sunny. So people weren't really walking all the way down to my booth. So I know some of these things like weather and foot traffic aren't necessarily things you as a business owner can control, but you can definitely put in some time to research the craft fair's location, date, maybe if there's other big events going on at that time, it might create some, conflict and you'll get less business than usual. The second big takeaway I had from the actual day of experience was you should have a system to keep track of cash sales. So again, I don't know if in your area people often pay in cash, but in my area people do. And I had enough change, but I didn't have a way to log down their purchase, like what they bought, how much they spent, and the change that was given. After it all, I remitted the sales tax based off of the lump sum that I had, but it would have been nice to know, what people bought and how much they spent and to make sure I gave the correct amount of change. That's my first craft fair experience in a nutshell. Hopefully you were able to get something from it. Prepping for a fair is not easy work, but it's definitely doable in 1 month because I did it. Just be sure to have the right growth mindset and the drive to, plan and actually get the work done. Whether you kind of get lucky like me or if it rains out on that day, either way, it's a great learning experience and I don't think you'd regret it. Leave me a note in the comments below if you have any questions about my first craft fair experience. I really do have so much more to share, but I wasn't able to present that information in an organized manner in this video. So if you have specific questions, hopefully I can answer them for you. Before I sign off, I do want to quickly shout out all the people who are near and dear to me who came to support me at my first craft fair. I love you guys. Thanks for coming. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you folks in the next one. Bye.